Emma's life had always been calm and measured. She worked at the library, lived in a small apartment, and wasn't particularly sociable. But one day, everything changed. Due to the closure of her old workplace, she had to move to a new city and a new house allocated to her by her new employer. Emma immediately noticed that something was off about the house. The first sign was a strange smell resembling rust that wouldn't go away. At night, she heard strange sounds, creaking, knocking, rustling. Emma decided to ignore it all and continue living her normal life, attributing these oddities to the age of the house. But every day, the situation became worse. The smell became stronger, and the sounds grew louder and more terrifying. One night, she woke up to someone whispering in her ear. She thought she might have been overhearing her neighbors' conversations, but when she opened her eyes and approached the window, she saw that her neighbors' windows were dark. At that moment, she felt a fear she had never experienced before. She couldn't explain what was happening, but she knew that something was off. The next night, she heard screams coming from the room upstairs. She climbed up the stairs and saw blood on the floor. At that moment, she heard whispers and laughter coming from the room downstairs. Emma knew she had to leave, but something mysterious held her back. She was seized by an extraordinary force and a horror that wouldn't let her leave the apartment. Emma became obsessed with exploring the apartment, hoping to find an explanation for all these phenomena. She found an old book that described rituals and spells for summoning spirits. She decided to perform the ritual and summon a spirit to understand what was happening in the apartment. One evening, she finally mustered the courage to recite the spell. The ritual was carefully prepared. Emma turned on the lights in all the rooms except the one where the spirit was to be summoned. She lit candles and began the ritual. The spell contained complex and incomprehensible words, some of which were difficult to read. Emma was worried that she might not get it right because of the difficult language. She felt a slight irritation. As she was reciting the spell, she heard a loud knock on the door, forcing her to interrupt the ritual, as the safety of a living person was her priority. She opened the door and saw a strange old woman in black clothing who just smiled at her and remained silent. Emma tried to ask the woman questions, but she just stared and remained silent. Emma thought that the old woman was just mentally ill. She tried to close the door, but the old woman stepped forward and blocked the door with her foot, and then entered the house, pushing Emma aside. Then the old woman began to speak incomprehensible words, and the room became even colder. Emma was overcome with fear and realized that she had brought something terrible upon herself. The old woman approached her and began speaking in an incomprehensible language. The room grew darker, and Emma began to lose consciousness. When she came to, she realized that she was in another world. There was only darkness around her, and she knew that this place did not belong to the living. She began to run and search for a way out, but the darkness only grew denser. Eventually, she heard a voice telling her that she was not alone. It was the voices of other people who had also found themselves in this world. They joined their efforts and began searching for a way out. They walked for a long time and finally found a door. When they opened it, they found themselves in Emma's apartment. They heard whispers and laughter and realized that ghosts lived in this apartment. Emma explained her situation to them, and they understood that they all ended up here for one reason: they were summoned by the old woman. They decided to perform a ritual to return to their world. They summoned the spirits and began reciting incantations. The room became bright, and they felt a strong airflow. When it was all over, they realized that they had returned to their world. They thanked each other and decided never to get involved with such dangerous things again. But Emma knew that this experience left an indelible mark on her. She would never forget that terrifying night and would always remember that there are many things in the world that we don't understand.